Howdy, Beefalo Bart here, and welcome. As the title suggests, it's going to be a multifold actually, but going to be talking about projects with Beefalo Bart Gaming, and if you want to join the team and help out with some projects that we got going on, and also I'm going to be screwing around with the characters from for right now, the Polygon Fantasy characters, and start messing with some combat animations and stuff. So, again, I'm starting off with my basic Steam simple multiplayer Steam template. Again, available to purchase via PayPal for $20. If you haven't seen it, check out my other videos. I got plenty on it, so we won't get carried away into it for right now. But I'm going to go to my characters folder. I'm going to go ahead and make animations, and I'm going to make one here called Unarmed. I'm going to make another one called Magic, another one called Melee, and that'll be good enough for right now. I'm going to start with the Unarmed, and I'm going to go to, like I always do when retargeting animations for the Synty Studios characters, I go to my mannequin for my third-person character, go to the mesh folder, open up my UE4 mannequin skeleton, and we need to prepare this, and let's get the retargeting manager open. First thing we need to do is select humanoid rig right here, and we need to make some changes because the UE4 mannequin's in a Y pose and we need them to be in a T pose. So the first thing I'm going to do is click on the upper arm, rotate it up 50. There you go. And then the lower arm, I need to rotate that down by 10 and back by 20. And then I need to rotate the hand up by 10. So that straightens up that arm, gets it good to go. We'll do the other one, raise the upper arm by 50. We need to lower the lower arm by 10 and rotate it back by 20, and then raise the hand by 10. And now what I want to do is select modify pose and use current pose, then hit save. And that prepares my skeleton for what I'm working on. So I'm actually going to go to a map besides the main menu map. I'm going to go to the lobby map and whatever, save that. Now I want to go to my animations folder. I'm going to right click, actually nope, not yet. Since I'm going to be adding more characters in, I'm going to go to the Polygon Fantasy Characters pack. I'm going to go to the characters. I'm going to grab the skeleton that's unique. One skeleton covers all the characters in it. And I'm going to copy that over to, actually I need to go to characters, create a new folder called Mesh. Now I can go back to the mesh for the characters, or that main folder for the meshes. Grab the skeleton, left click, drag it over to my mesh folder, copy here, and then I'm going to go ahead and rename it by hitting F2. We're going to call this our Polygon Skeleton. Now, I don't need to worry about going into it, but I do need to do, one thing. You see there's no preview mesh. We need to fix that. So what we need to do now is go back to our characters folder, and I'm going to left click and then control left click on all of the pink or skeletal meshes for all of the characters in this asset pack, so that I've got them all highlighted. And then I'm going to right click on any one of them, go to skeleton and assign skeleton, select my polygon skeleton and accept. I need to keep doing this until it stops giving me the window. You're going to have to do it once for each of the characters. And that's going to change the skeleton that they're currently using to the one that I just created to give it its own unique one. So later on, if I want to add more character packs in, I can assign them to this skeleton also, and then they'll use the same animations. I only have to create the animation set one time, and they'll all use that same animation sets. So now let's go ahead and save all. Now we go back to our mesh, open it up, and now we can pick one from the group. You got the Druid, gypsy, female peasant 2, female queen, female witch, male baird, and we're going to use him as our default. Or yeah, we got the male king. Let's go ahead and look through all of them. Male peasant, that one we may actually use. Male rogue, that's kind of cool. Male sorcerer, male wizard, and that's it. So we're actually going to use the male peasant. We're going to click apply to asset and then save. That's all we have to do now. So we can go into our animations for our UE4 mannequin. I'm going to right click, retarget animation blueprints, and select polygon skeleton. I'm going to click here for replace, and I'm going to type in third person underscore, which is on the original animation that I'm retargeting. I don't want that name on there, so I'm going to call this polygon underscore, and then it'll use the rest of the information there. So I hit change. I want to go to my characters folder, animations, unarmed, and OK. Now I can hit retarget, and it retargets the animation blueprint and all of the animations that were in that animation blueprint. So now I want to hit save all, save selected. Now if I go to my player blueprints folder, open up my player underscore base, which is my third person character, go to the viewport, click the mesh, and we're going to have to make some changes here and there, but we're not just yet. We want to change the skeletal mesh. We want to be the male peasant. Change the animation class to polygon animation blueprint, compile, and save. You'll notice there's a gap between his head and the top there. So we would have to resize the capsule, but make sure that our feet are equal with the bottom of the capsule. Not going to do it right now because this is good enough for now. So we hit compile and save, and then we go into our test map here, and I'm going to play in selected viewport. And there we go. We're our character. We can walk around. We can jump. Lovely. So, with that, that's all we can do is run around. These are automatically replicated because of the way the game engine works. You don't have to do anything. It's just going to be there. So now everybody that connects to this game will be that player. That will look exactly the same. So, I want to look at some animations. Don't need. See, we got items. We have a sword, a broom, a dagger, a staff, a scepter, a lute, sword ornate, a magic wand, and a wizard staff. Let's get with the regular item sword. And what we're going to want to do here is we want our character, when we're looking at him, we want him to, and I got to get rid of that mouse cursor bug next, but we want our character actually to have a sword and sheath so that he can carry a sword on his hip. So again, first thing I'm going to do is open level blueprints and event begin play, because I will complain about this until I do it. It's not a critical item, but I'm just old and grumpy and shit, so bear with me. We want to set input to game mode only. We want to get player controller, and then we want to set show mouse cursor to false. So now we don't have that pesky ass mouse cursor every time we go into the freaking map. So compile and save, and then there. I don't have to click on the map before I can actually move around and start moving my character. So we want to add the sword and sheath. So what we're going to have to do is go into our mesh, a custom one that we made, and we want to add the sword onto our hip. Now, if this were a pistol, I would say put it on the right hip, but we want to put it on the other side. So where do we actually want to put our sword? Click there. That's on spine 1, pelvis. I actually prefer to do it on thigh, like left or right. And all I'm going to do is go to my skeleton tree and this is already highlighted here, so I'm going to right click on that. I'm going to add a socket, and I'm going to call this sword with a capital S. And then I'm going to right click on it, and I'm going to add a preview asset, which is the sword's sheath. And see, it's sticking to the side, but there's a sword in it. So, okay, no problem. We just need to rotate it. Let's give it a slight angle. And now let's go ahead and move it over. Make it look semi-normal, like he's actually carrying a sword. Actually lower it down some too. So now it's going to be linked to our thigh. So as our leg moves, it's going to move along with our leg. But now we actually have the ability to have that sword on our hip. It's kind of big for this guy. So if you don't want it there, say if you want it on his back, which the size of this sword dictates that I would say it's probably going to be there. I'm actually going to delete that, and I'm going to delete that. And let's actually do that. Since that sword is a little bit big, we're going to go ahead and click on the spine 3, and I'm going to go ahead and add a socket here. We're going to call this sword underscore sheath or underscore back. So we know what it is. Sword underscore back. Yes, I know I don't have to pronounce the W in there, but we want to add preview asset, the sword and sheath. Now, let's go ahead and do what we got to do here. We just need to move it back and rotate it so it looks like it should sitting on his back. You know what, that's good enough for now. I would like to move it down a little bit because we don't want to extend it past his head. So now, in theory, he will be reaching back and grabbing his sword and be able to draw it from there. Should want to slide it to the right just a hair. So that's good enough. So, what we're going to do here is save and close the skeleton. We need to go into our player blueprint and go to our viewport. Now, we need to click on our mesh. We want to add a component, but let's go ahead and do the easy way. Instead of trying to scroll through and find everything separately, let's go to our items and go to our sword sheath. We're going to select it, and then we're going to add component, static mesh, and there it is. Now we need to socket it to sword back, compile, and save. Now, it's there. We don't want it there right yet. So I want to scroll down to visible and uncheck that. Why? Because we want to pick up the sword. We don't want to start with the sword. So if we hit play right now, we don't have it. It's not there. We don't have a sword. So we need to create a pickup item for it. So I'm going to come down to my content, new folder, assets. Making new folders, I can't stress that enough. Make folders for everything. Be neat, be organized, and you'll appreciate it later. So, pickups. And we want to go ahead and create a new blueprint class, actor, BP underscore sword underscore sheath. Then we want to go into it. Tab back over, go find the item, select it, go back to here, add component, static mesh, and there it is. So it's actually, we don't want it standing straight up and down, so let's actually rotate it so it looks like it's laying flat. And then we want to add, uncheck that, and we want a box component or box collision. And I want to size it to be pretty close, but it doesn't have to be precise. You want it to be a little bit bigger than the actual item you're picking up. So let's shrink that down, stretch it, and let's stretch it there. So I want it a little bit bigger. So that's good. Compile and save. Go to our event graph, delete everything in here, and then right click on our box collision, add event, on component begin overlap, and here's where we want other actor is going to be cast to player underscore base, which is what I'm using for my third person character. And now here's where we need to go ahead and compile and save, because now in our player, let's look at our event graph, we need to be able to activate and deactivate that. So to start off with, let's add a variable in has sword underscore sheath, and we're going to leave it as that. Actually, I'm kind of grown fond of putting a question mark at the end, because we know that we're asking a question, but still, you know, we want to do that. So let's go here off of our event tick. Yeah, event tick. No, let's actually create a custom event first. So the custom event is found sword and shield, or sheath. So we found the sword and sheath. So what do we want to do when that happens? We want to ask a question. So we want a branch node, connect that up, and that question we're asking, do we have the sword and sheath? And if the answer is no, we don't want to do anything. But if the answer is true, then we want to grab a reference to our sword and sheath, and we want to set visibility to true and connect that to the true. So true. And now if we've found sword and sheath, then we're going to turn on the visibility for it. So compile and save, and then I'm going to go ahead and highlight that, hit C, found sword and sheath, and I'm going to actually drag that out of the way, because we're done with that one for now. And let's come back over here and go to event tick, and then from the event tick, yeah, I don't have any ticks, we want to found sword and sheath. We want to run that check, and that's all we're going to do with that. So we're going to compile and save. Let's go back into our sword and sheath, and then what we want to do is get from our player base found. No, we want to, what is that? Has sword and sheath. So we want to get off of there, and we want to set has sword sheath. Set that to true. Then what we want to do is we want to make that sword and sheath disappear off of the map. So let's go ahead and do destroy actor. Now we can do it that way if we want it to just go away and never come back, or we could actually do it a different way and set it to where it will come back if we want it to. So let's quickly go in here, go to our pickups folder, and drop our sword and sheath on the ground. There we go, and let's hit play. So there we go. We walked over, we picked it up, and now it automatically threw it onto our back. That is awesome. That's what we wanted to do, and it disappears from the map, so it's completely gone. We now have a sword and shield, and it's on our back. That's what we wanted to do. Now we need to get it into the player's hand. We're not going to swing it yet, but we got to at least get it in the player's hand. So if we hit the number 1, this is going to be our primary weapon, or in this case it will be our sword. So we no longer need the sword and sheath, because that no longer is needed. So let's come over here, and I'm going to right click, type escape, and I want the escape keyboard event. But I don't want to use escape. I actually want to use keyboard number 1. So now when we press, let's actually make it a flip-flop, you know, just because we want to hit it one time and draw our sword out, and the second time we want to put it away. So what we're going to need to do now is we have our pickup item. We also need, in our assets folder, weapons. So what we're going to need to do now is look at our items again. We have the sword and sheath. Well, the sheath has a sword in it. So what we need to do is look at the actual sword itself. So what's going to happen is we're going to grab the sword, and that sword and sheath is going to disappear off our back. And now we want it to go in our hand. So let's go back to this weapons folder. And let's go ahead and create a blueprint class, actor, and we're going to call this sword underscore 01. This is going to be the first sword of our group, our weapons. Go back to our items, left click on it, and let's go to here, add component, static mesh, bang. Now typically we want a skeletal mesh for our weapon. We don't typically want that. So let's hit compile and save. So now we need to go back to our skeleton, which is in our mesh folder. Nope, open. Open says me. We want it to go into our right hand. So let's actually select our right hand, hand underscore R, and then we're going to right click, add socket, main underscore hand is going to be where I want this, what the socket to be called. I'm going to go ahead and, I know I'm going to have to move it over, but let's go ahead and add a preview asset, and we want that sword. Where are you, Mr. Sword? Not the sword ornate. Dagger, broom, dagger, item, sword. Now, it is not at the right angle there. So let's go ahead and rotate it around and make it look like it's supposed to for our hand. Now keep in mind, I don't have the animations in here yet, so we don't have any animations to go along with that sword. So for right now, we just want it to look semi-natural as we're holding on to it. It's not going to be perfect. We don't need it to be perfect just yet. We just need to have it in our hands. So that's good enough for now. So let's hit save, and we called it main underscore hand. So now I'm not going to worry about doing anything else to the sword. We're not going to give it damage or anything just yet. We want to go ahead and get it operational in the hand first. So the other thing we want to do here is go back to our viewport, select our mesh, go back over here again, go to our items, find our sword, go back to our player, add static mesh item sword. So now with that selected, we want to go ahead and parent socket is going to be main hand, so we need to find that, and I already passed it. Yeah, right there, main hand. So now it's socketed to his main hand and he's holding on to it. And again, visibility is off. We don't want to see it until we need to see it. So I'm actually going to close the weapon version of it for right now, and we're going to click on that, click on the event graph. So what we want to do now is we want to get a reference to our sword and sheath, and we want to get a reference to our sword. And now this is going to be the easy way and probably the best way to do weapon swapping. So we hit our primary weapon. For now, we're only going to have a sword. Where it's going to be tricky is later on, we're going to have maybe multiple swords for our main hand. So we need to know which one we have equipped. And we'll worry about that at another time. Again, right now we're just trying to get everything functional. So now whenever I press the the number 1 key the first time, the first thing that I want to do, welcome on, good to see you. So we want to set visibility to pretty much unchecked. We want to make this disappear, and we want to make this set visibility to true. So now what I want to do is I want to Control C and Control V, put that back down. So now when we hit the number 1 key, we're going to hide the one on our back and show the one that's in our hand. So now when we hit it again, we want to do the opposite of that. So what we're going to do is say it's black. Oh shit. Hi, how are you? Well, I'll recap what I was doing before, because y'all would have missed all that. So here's what I'm actually doing. We're going to hit the number 1 key, and I'm actually going to go ahead and compile and save. And yes, I know you're not done yet. Let me connect these. We want to hook you up there and hook you up there. Compile and save. So quickly, yeah, it helps to actually push the right display button. That's why I need to get that a little board that you can put on your desk to actually change things. So what we actually did was we created a pickup item of a sword that's on the ground. You see, I don't have a sword at all. I'm unarmed. So I'm going to walk over it, and whenever I walk over it, it takes it off the ground and puts it on my back. So what we want to do now is we want to set it to where when I hit the number 1 key, it puts it in my hand and makes the one on my back disappear. So right now it's not doing it all the way. So that's what I'm doing here is, and I gotta check the right boxes here. Set visibility of this to false. Let me actually break all these lines and redo this part again. I just grabbed a reference to my sword and sheath, which is on my back, and the sword, which is going to be in my hand. So what I need to do is, whenever I hit the number 1 key the first time, I want to set the visibility of this. I want to set that visibility to false. I don't want to see it. So I'm going to break this down and test it here, because it didn't work correctly the last time. So I'm going to walk over here and grab it, hit the number 1 key, and it's not taking it away. So I'm going to have to figure that out. So we know that if we come back over here and set visibility again for that item, we know that it actually puts the sword in my hand. And if I Control C, Control V, and do what I had already before, connect this here. So when we hit the number 1 key again, we want to set the visibility of our sword to false, and we want to set the visibility of our sheath item on our back to visible. So we want these two to be visible and not visible on that line. So in theory, this is the way it should be, but there's a minor hiccup that I'm missing. So there, we picked it up, hit 1, sword appears in our hand, but the other one doesn't disappear. Hit 1 again, the sword disappears out of our hand, and yeah, it's still on our back. So it never got rid of that one. So what we're gonna have to do is break it right here. We're gonna have to get a branch, and we're gonna have to ask, do we have it or not? Because if we look, the sword is set to not visible. Sword and sheath is set to not visible. So that's what there should be. Because if, we need to also verify if we have it. So let's actually move this back a little bit. And I'm going to bring a branch node in here, because we need to know all this before we can either add or subtract it. We got to know if we got the damn thing or not. So has sword and sheath. So therefore, it's going to at this point. If we do have a sword and sheath, then we can do all this stuff. So I don't know if that's actually going to make a difference right now, because it's not turning off visibility of the one on our back. So this is another situation where Unreal 4 engine hates me. See, it works just fine. I can turn it on and off all day long. But the one on his back is not actually working. This right here, found sword and sheath. This one right here, it sets... Oh, here's one thing we didn't do. Has sword and sheath. If the answer is true, then there. But never mind. I fixed that in the actual pickup item. The actual pickup item is the sword and sheath. So whenever we walk over and pick it up, it tells our player that we have one, and it destroys the actor off the ground. So that's covered here. So this variable is now set to true, and whenever it's set to true, it turns the visibility on. So what we have to do here is we have to trick it, because Unreal Engine 4, this is one of the places where it's a really great system, but it's retarded. It is like a dumb kid. It just doesn't get it. We're still having this. We still have it. It's still going to show up because we're telling it set the visibility to true. It's there. It's true. Even though we're telling it right here, set the visibility to false. We don't want to see it. We don't want to see it. We're telling you, don't show us that. However, we've already confirmed. Do we have it? Yes. And if we do have it, then let's do that. Set the visibility of the sword and sheath to not visible. Why wouldn't that work? We're saying, don't show us this anymore. Make it invisible. Set that to invisible. However, on the event tick, we're still saying, hey, we got it. So it's turning it instantly back on again. We don't even see it blink, but Unreal Engine 4 says, no, you got it. It's got to be visible. And if we were to go in here to sword and sheath and turn on visibility, it's going to screw things up even more. So if I hit compile and save and go into the game now, it's already there on my back. So it won't matter if we come over here and pick it up. It'll just delete it off the ground. Hit 1 and 1. It's still not going to work. So we definitely want visibility turned off. So we don't have it on our back from the start of the game. When we're doing this right here, we're saying that we found this action. We found that sword. And now turn visibility on. So we have to somehow trick Unreal Engine 4 and tell it to kiss my ass, quit showing it to me. Even though we're telling it right here, set the visibility to false. Probably going to end up having to do is something that we should not have to do, but we got to trick Unreal Engine 4 into saying it. Actually, let's put it in a different location. Let's move these guys over. And I'm going to move that. What I want to do here is yeah, this is going to be dumb, but we want to drag off from here and set has sword and sheath to false. And then do the same thing here. Set has sword and sheath back to true. This is absolutely stupid. I should not have to do this to get this to work. But let's see if it does. We have to trick it into believing that. So now I'm going to walk over. I pick it up. We got it. I hit it, and there it works. So now if I hit that again, it's broken. Because we're asking right here, do we have it? Which we do need to say that. Because we need to ask. But for right now, let's try deleting that just to get the functionality correctly. But if we compile and save, we don't have it. If I hit 1, I instantly got my sword, and there, I don't have to even pick it up. It's working as it should here, but I need to be able to verify it before I go into this. Yeah, Unreal 4, why do you vex me so? But by having that branch node in here, we're going to have to create a whole different variable to control visibility. So do I has sword and sheath? Yes. Set the visibility to true. But right here, I've got to do that. I've got to do this, or else it's just not going to work. But I've got to have some way of creating another pickup item, another system. So I'm probably going to have to revamp the found sword and sheath and create a new variable called sword and sheath picked up. So I'm going to have to create that variable and drag that in here. I'm going to drag this off right now. We're going to end up using it still, but we're going to change that over here. We've picked it up. So now we're going to turn the visibility on. And then we need to set that to true. This is backwards ass stuff. Sword and sheath picked up. So here we want to do the first variable and a branch. Now we're going to check that. So what we're trying to do here, and I probably got this backwards and I'll have to revamp it again. We want to say that we've got it. We want to turn on visibility and set has sword and sheath to true. And now we need to ask, have we picked it up? Yes. And it's complicated, and I'm probably going to rename all of these variables so that it's less complicated to look at. But let's see what happens now if I hit the number 1 key. Nothing. So now I'm going to go over and pick up the sword. It did not put it on my back, and I still can't do anything. Sword, yeah. We're not setting that to true. Sword and sheath picked up, true. So we got to go back into our pickup item, and we need to change that to set sword and sheath picked up and activate that. So now that whenever we walk over and pick it up, we're activating that portion of it. Compile and save, and what happens now? If I hit 1, nothing. Walk over here and do that. Now I've got it, and now it's in my hand, and the shit's broke again, as if we didn't do a damn thing. Oh, Unreal 4, you suck some major donkey nuts at times. We have the sword and sheath. We set the visibility. I guess we don't need that. Let's try getting rid of that. So yeah, I'm just going to come in here and redo all of these because it's just absolutely pissing me off. Let's go ahead and delete. Thank you. Compile and save. Let's go back to our player. And I'm going to rename these variables. I'm going to get rid of it here. And I'm going to rename them. So we got sword and sheath picked up. Let's actually leave that one in. That's good enough. And we don't need that one at all. So sword and sheath was picked up. At that point, all we should have to do is set our visibility. And I know this is not going to work correctly because this is what we're doing before. So let's go ahead and put that variable back in. Compile and save, and let's go ahead and do the same thing again. Sword and shield picked up, so we want to set that to true. Connect that, connect that. Simple. This is such a simple thing that's getting screwed over because here we're saying, did we pick it up? Yes. Then set the visibility of it to true. And in theory, all we're doing here is saying when we hit the number 1 key, we need to check to see if we have picked it up. And if we have, then we want to set the visibilities. It's simple. Really simple. Hitting 1 does nothing now. I walk over and pick it up. It puts it on my back. I hit the number 1 key. It's supposed to take it off of my back and put it in my hands. It is something so freaking simple. But yet only making that appear works. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in here and do item sword and sheath, and I'm going to get rid of it. And this right here, I'm going to redo it, but I'm going to get rid of it for now. So when we hit number 1 key, we want, get a reference to this, we want to set visibility to true. But before I tell it to set it to true, I'm going to Control-C, Control-V, connect there, and for now, we're just going to make the damn sword disappear completely. We know this works. Compile and save. Oh, would you eat my butt? Compile and save. What are you complaining about now? Oh, excuse me. Pardon me. So now when we do this, it'll put it directly on our hands, and it'll probably frickin' break again. So let's go over here. We hit the number 1 key. Nothing happens. We walk over. We pick it up. It's in our hands. Let's actually just go back in here and get rid of that. Something so simple has to be so complicated. I'm just going to get rid of this. Then we don't need the that or that. So now we're just going to check if we have it. Doesn't matter if it's displayed or not. Compile and save. So now if I hit 1, we don't have it, so it's not going to show it. So now I walked over, we picked it up, but it didn't do anything until I hit number 1 key, which puts it in my hand. Then hit number 1 key, it puts it away. So that's what we're going to have for now. The next part of that, we can close that, we're done with that, is we need to look at animations. Okay, I don't have any animations currently in here. Let's compile and save, and I'm going to close this. I don't have any sword animations right now. I do have some, they're just not in game yet. So what I'm going to do is I am going to I got draw sword, sheath sword, short attack. No. Absolutely no. Edit. Editor preferences. We don't play the autosave game. Alright, now go away. I don't want you autosaving shit. Let's go to animations folder and let's do one hand sword. Open that folder. Let's see here. I don't have a shield. Probably should have done my magic user stuff first because I got those animations. Give me just a moment and I will be right back. And then I will finish. I will look at adding in a sword animation. I'll have to dig through my animation, see if I can come up with one. But I will be right back in like 2 moments. Sorry about that, but I had to go check to see if I had a thumb drive that had some other audios and other animations, stuff like that on it. I don't see it. Alright, so since the folder that I had with those animations didn't have them, I'm going to change it up a little bit. Just a wee bit. Yes, I know I've already created the sword stuff, but let's look at some magic. So that being the case, let's actually go back into our player. I'm going to break that for right now, so we're not worried about the sword. Actually, I'm just going to delete it. But we will use the number 1 key for our first spell attack. And I haven't tested these assets yet. I have on the UE4 mannequin, but since technically they are set up to work, I will give it a shot. So first I'm going to do is go to my magic folder, and I am going to copy these animations in. They're from another asset system, or they're already in UAsset file, I should say, a format, I should say. Do characters, animations, and I'm going to highlight them and just drag them in. So there we go. Now, since I technically have the UE4 mannequin in the default location, they in theory should be working. So there we go. We got the that one I would use like for a heal. Let's see. Standing one hand magic attack. So that we would see would be our number one. We've got a standing idle. So what we want to do here is we want to, at this point, we are a magic user. So what we want to do is have a switch to put us in combat mode. Because right now, let's get rid of the sword. If we hit play, we're just walking around, we're just happy-go-lucky, we're in normal walk-around travel mode. And then F for fight mode. When we hit F to go into fight mode, we want to change our animation set. So let's start off with... I'm going to try to remap these. Standing idle, retarget animations. Okay, I need to actually move these to a different folder so that I can retarget them. So I'm going to do new folder, temp, and I'm going to go into magic, shift click all of them, and I'm going to move them to the temp folder, because I want to retarget them and put them back into this folder. So let's see what happens if I just do a bulk right click, retarget animation assets. Now I don't have an animation blueprint set up for this yet. Gonna have to do that, but let's first off, let's see if we can get this to work. Go to polygon skeleton and let's change the location. We want to be characters, animation, magic, okay. Names, I'm not going to change. Let's go ahead and hit retarget and actually see what happens. So now if I go into that melee, really? Where did they go? Okay, I did it the first time and they didn't show up. So let's hit save all. And let's look at the standing idle. There we go. And for right now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go back to my mesh. And I want to get rid of the main hand. So I'm just going to click on it, hit delete, sword back, and delete. I'm just going to get rid of them for now. And why did my preview asset change? Let's go with the male sorcerer, or let's go with the male wizard. Apply to asset, save, and let's make our character look like that as well. Let's go to our mesh. I'm going to get rid of that because we don't need it anymore. So mesh, male wizard, and let's change his color. Do we want green? It's kind of a purple. Black, okay. Or white. You know what, for whatever, we're just going to go back to the original. We'll just be the red wizard. Compile and save, go back to our event graph. So we're going to end up creating a whole new animation system. And let's look at these magic ones again. And it changed my preview asset. So that looks good. It retargeted just fine. There we go. So what I want to do is, we don't have movement. We don't have walk. We don't have any of that stuff right there. So standing idle, to me, we may not be able to use this one right here. It looks a little bit cooler because she's standing there waving her hand like, okay, I'm going to cast a spell. But honestly, I don't think we're going to use it right now. So we know that this is the one that we're going to start off with. It's not perfect, but it'll be good enough for what we're doing for right now. Yeah, I'm not going to worry about doing some crazy fixing on it yet. So let's actually go back to our player. And what I want to do is whenever I press the number 1 key, I want to play the animation. And we should set this as an animation montage, but I'm not going to yet. Play animation mesh. Not meh, but mesh. So we're going to play the animation for another thing I want to do really quickly here is I don't need these temp ones anymore because they're all the same name as the new ones we created. We don't need those, so it's not going to, I don't want them to confuse me whenever I'm digging through. We don't need them anymore. So what we need is standing one-hand magic attack. That's what we want. What is that one? It's more of a follow-through, so yeah, we're not worried about it. We're using number 1. So, where the hell is my damn player? Get your ass back up there. Now I can actually go back in here to my melee, my magic, and select the attack, then come back in here, and then hit the arrow. Now it's going to play that animation, and then what I want to do is I want to I don't remember if I need to do it that way. INST, no. I guess I'm going to have to do it off of the mesh. Set anim instance class. We need to look at this animation. The animation sequence length is 2.3. So we actually need to put a delay in of, and I'm actually going to put a hair shorter. It's going to be 2.29. So we want to give it enough time to actually do the animation, and then we want to go back to our normal animation. No, we don't want third person. We want our poly. Learn how to spell. You're such a dummy. So compile and save. Go in here. We are a wizard. Bam! We just do our spell, and then we throw our hand back down. I would have to go back in and create a whole new animation blueprint so that, bam, we can throw our spell, and then we go back to an idle. I mean, I could honestly go back in and change the idle out for the regular idle animation and create a magic users thing. But I like the idea of having a standard regular animation blueprint for unarmed. I'm walking around. I look normal. I don't look like I'm trying to get ready to kick your ass. So, bam, throw my spell and done. Throw my spell and done. So now I can, you see, I'm still moving around. So what you would want to do is make it to where you have to actually either stop to cast your spell, or you're going to have to do a specific blend where you're actually telling the upper half of your body to move independently from the lower half of your body during that animation. And that's something I'll get into later. I don't want to get too involved in it right now, but I just wanted to see that you could actually switch to an animation or an animation montage when you perform an attack, and then done. Attack, and then done. But you have to be stopped to be able to do it, or you have to go in there and tweak the animation so that it will go either way. So you can see that it works. And like I said, if I want to go into my animation montage for unarmed, and actually change this. You go into the anim graph, go into your state machine, and if you look at your idle run, it's playing the idle run 2D blend space, and you'd have to go back into your blend space and change your blend space around. I don't want to get into that just yet. What I'll do later is I'll come back in and I will create a blend space for idle, and then basically I'm going to use the same setup right here. If you look at this is a 2D blend space. If you look, this is just controlling your walking and running. Doesn't do anything for your direction or anything else. So I can come back in here and replicate this and change out this node right here, which is my idle. So it's standing idle. Technically speaking, if I wanted to right now, I could come in here and just replace it now, but I'll create a whole new blend space. So you got polygon idle, and that'll be my unarmed. So what I'll do is I'll come in here to magic, and I will create a new blend space, which is under animation blend space 1D for polygon skeleton, and mage underscore BS for blend space, not bullshit. So I want to bring in the standing idle. Yep, bring that in. But we don't have any movement, so we need to have some movement. So we'll do polygon idle run 2D jump, third person idle, third person walk, and third person run. So technically, there we go. So it'll change the animation when we're running, and then our hand goes up to the idle for the hand animation. So let's go ahead and hit save on that. Close that. And then essentially all I would end up doing is going and making a copy of this, and at this point I would change that out to the other blend space, the mage BS. So I'm not going to directly copy it, but I can open it up and I can get the event graph stuff. I can copy that in, copy my variables. And if you're trying to do that, now see, I don't like the way they lay these out, so I'm going to come in here and delete the comment blocks, and I'm actually going to go ahead and rearrange these just so it meets my standards a little bit better. And let's move these guys. You can compact the crap out of this thing and take up a lot less space and get the same thing accomplished. So you want that up there. You want drag this shiite over here. This needs to be lined up here. And these guys can be lined up down here. See, I'm very OCD about the way my blueprints look. And it's mostly because whenever I go back in later and I want to try to edit something, if it's a little bit neater and cleaner and easier to look at, then it's going to be easier to follow. So now I can just come in here and I'm going to grab all of this, Control C, and I'm going to compile and save. I'm going to come over here and go to my magic folder, and I am going to right click, go to animation, animation blueprint. I want to select my poly animation BP. Actually, I want to select my polygon skeleton, and this is going to be my mage anim BP. I'm going to go into it. Off of the result, I want to go to state machine. I want to add a new state machine, and then double click on that. And what I'm going to do is actually go back to my event graph, delete those, Control V, and now it's there. And now this variable does not exist, and neither does this. So what I need to do is I need to create variable, right click, create variable, and then hit compile and save. And now we need to complete our state machine. Now if I were to go in here and just polygon idle, we don't need to open that up. We need to look at our state machine here. We need to make this. And if we just copy this over, will it work? Probably no. Because we don't have all the stuff on the inside. You know what? Quit being an ass and link. Alright, so if you look at the way it's done here, it's linking through a circle. And I have more problems than not making sure that all this crap works. Because if you look, there's nothing, well, it's in there. So it may actually have copied correctly. But what you need to do here is you need to change that one by getting rid of it. Connect that in here to here and here to here. Let's try to compile and save. We got an error because it's the wrong one. Let's grab that one and connect it there, and then compile and save. Then we're gonna have to go back in there and pretty much fix everything. Is in error, it doesn't exist, so we take that one and relink it. Compile and save, and then we want to go back. Open that. Third person jump start asset. Again, that should be okay. Yes. It'll tell you what the error is. So grab that, delete that, grab that, connect it to here, and hit compile and save. See if the errors are gone, and they are. I am really sure that that's not working whatsoever. That can't possibly be working yet. So if we go to our mesh, look at our viewport, and then change our polyanim BP to mage anim BP, and hell, it seems to be working. Why would, whenever I do shortcuts and dumb stuff, why is it working? See, I jump, and then bang, it goes back to that. I run, it goes back to it. So let's hit escape. Let's close those two down and look at our player again. We want to do that animation, and then we want to go back to the mage animation. And then compile and save. Do that, we go back to our animation. Bam. So it's working other than forcing us to stand still, and if you wanted to be able to make them stand still, at that point you can go to character movement and stop movement immediately, and just for shits and grins, I'm going to see if that actually will do what we need to do here. I'm going to link that in. I'll probably end up deleting it, but you want to stop the movement. So we come over here, we hit that, bam, it stops us, but we're sliding around still. It's not a smooth transition, but yeah. Our character movement, we want to disable movement. And again, probably not going to do what I want to do. And then enable. No. You would think that if you're going to have a disable, you might as well have an enable, right? Deactivate. And then activate. So we want our character to stop movement, and there's a bunch of different ways you can fiddle around with it and actually get it to work. And like I said, this is just temporary stuff, just testing. I want to make it stop us. There we go. So as we're running, we go to cast. It stops us from running forward until we finish our cast and go back to our animation. Bam. And that'll work for right now. So that's that. We don't have a projectile yet. We want to create a projectile. I'm going to take a break for a little bit, and when I come back, I'll set up the projectile, and I make sure that it's not a black screen when I start the video. So we can actually make a projectile to throw, which could be a fireball. Alright guys, thanks for watching. We'll see you.